This is a Film Stories original podcast.
When it comes to weight loss, no two people are the same. That's why Noom builds personalized plans based on your unique psychology and biology. Take Brittany. After years of unsustainable diets, Noom helped her lose 20 pounds and keep it off.
I was definitely in a yo-yo cycle for years of just losing weight, gaining weight, and it was exhausting.
And Stephanie. She's a former D1 athlete who knew she couldn't out-train her diet, and she lost 38 pounds.
My relationship to food before Noom was never consistent.
And Evan, he can't stand salads, but he still lost 50 pounds with Noom.
I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am. Even through the pickiness, Noom taught me that building better habits builds a healthier lifestyle. I'm not doing this to get to a number. I'm doing this to feel better.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com. Real Noom users compensated to provide their story. In 4 weeks, the typical Noom user can expect to lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Individual results may vary.
We made this.
Welcome back, everyone, to the XCast. The truth is in here. I'm your host, Sarah Blair, and we are back with I Want to Believe Minute, where we unpick the second X-Files movie 1 minute at a time. Today we're talking about minute 31, running from approximately 30:00 with Mulder and Scully in bed in their house that they live in together. And going through 30:59 when Scully asks a very important question about, I guess, the universe and everything. So, today we've got Cortlan and Cathy back, and we're happy to talk about this minute. And hey, how's it going, everybody?
Great.
Awesome.
Going great.
All right. Cathy, I'm excited to hear about your first experience watching I Want to Believe and your general thoughts about the film. Let us talk about that for a second.
So I saw it in the theater. I don't even remember if it was opening day, but it was certainly within that time frame. It's funny, for Fight the Future, I have specific memories of exactly what's showing and all that, but I Want to Believe, I know I went, and I went alone. I don't think there was a huge crowd. And I came out sort of underwhelmed and obviously misunderstood a few things, because I, for years, thought that Mulder and Scully were married because Scully absolutely said so during the movie, which is the opposite of true. So, and I was happy to see them on the screen. I was happy to see them together. I didn't love the story. And that has changed over the years. The more I watch it, the more I like it. Yeah. There were some characterization bits that I didn't enjoy at first and have come to appreciate. So it's still, I don't usually rewatch this one unless I'm in a rewatch, right? I don't say like, oh, I feel like watching I Want to Believe. Whereas Fight the Future, if you just say the words, I'm watching it.
I know.
So.
What about my man? Oh, gotta watch it.
You
now.
turned it on right now, right?
Guess what I'm doing?
It's
She's
required.
actually watching it while we're recording it.
Don't mind me. But so I don't like it as much as that one, which Fight the Future I gave us an 8 to, and I'd probably rate that higher at this point. But for I Want to Believe, I'm thinking about a 7 is where I would be, even though I like it much more than I did previously.
Right.
So
before we jump in and discuss this minute, let's just have a quick reminder to follow the XCast on social media at Linktree/the XCast. And if you are enjoying the show, please do drop us a quick rating and review on Apple Podcasts. We'd be very grateful. Also, don't forget that you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/thexcast for early releases of episodes, lots of bonus content, and more. So let's dive in and talk about minute 31. And we've got Mulder and Scully. They're in the bed, and she's thinking about some deep things. And I love this part because it's very intimate, which we always love when Mulder and Scully get intimate, right? But that's the thing, is their intimacy is very cerebral. And they do have these deep, deep conversations with each other. And I think that's what makes it so special. What do you think, Cortlan?
Yeah, I think that this is like another step on the like continuum. If we think about, where we are, how I love to think about X-Files in terms of where they are in the X-File timeline. And we're like so far down the road now, like think about everything that we see in the series that is intimate. This is the most intimacy we ever see. And I know that there are lots of people who would maybe want like a little more intimacy on the screen, but I think like up till now, like this is the most we ever see, and I love it. I think so much of this movie is about like taking the good and the bad and like figuring out like how much bad are you taking to get to the good, and like, all of those kinds of questions. And I just love this good here.
Yeah, I agree. I wrote that in my notes. This is the most intimate scene we've ever seen from them.
Yeah.
It really is. It's startling because we've never actually seen them. We've seen them lying on top of the covers before, but now they are sleeping in this bed together. And I mean, look how close they are. I know Sarah wanted to get into the cerebral stuff, and I'm like, where is his hand?
I know. That's what I was thinking the whole time too. I was like, oh, under the covers, what's happening?
But yeah, I mean, it's just it's almost because it's so routine looking to them. To them, it's routine, but we've never seen this, right?
Yeah.
So it's just truly like we just showed up in their room one night as they're doing their thing. And I love it.
It's everything we wanted.
Yes.
Yeah.
It really
is.
It's
the domesticity that we never saw from them, that we knew they wanted, that we wanted for them. I'm clearly talking about shippers, but that's who I am.
It's okay. You're in good company here. Sorry if you're not a shipper.
But I think that Sarah's right, though, that how much of it carries into the conversation of like, it's not just that they're in bed together. It's that they're talking about this, like, powerful situation.
Absolutely.
Like, it's both of those things that are everything that we wanted.
Before we get into that deep conversation, I have one little comment from the script where he says, I have a little something for that. So that was the last minute. And she says, just a little something. Yes. And he says, thank you.
Yeah.
So in the script, now at the time this was made, there was a writer's strike going on. So they could not do any rewrites. The script was what was shot. They couldn't change the scenes at all. Sometimes dialogue was switched from one character to another, but there was no rewriting. But that little thank you from Mulder is not in the script. So it's almost certainly an ad-lib from David Duchovny. Yeah. It couldn't have been written while they were filming because they couldn't do writing. So I just wanted to throw that in. I thought that was kind of hilarious.
It sounds like an ad-lib.
Doesn't it? Okay, no big surprise there.
Yeah.
It sounds like that to
Thank
me.
You.
Like,
Right.
Yeah.
It just makes me giddy, that whole little bit of it. And, it is important because it's, we can talk about Scully's character and her religion and her faith and all of that, but I feel like that's been covered pretty well. So, we can just bask in the shipperiness of this if you want.
That's
Yeah.
what we're here for.
I mean, seriously.
That's why we have these minutes.
I think it does. It is important to acknowledge that this sets up some things for later. That this conversation they have is setting up. I mean, obviously setting up what we're going to continue to talk about in like the next minute, but also I think it places her in a pretty specific mindset about God's cruelties.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where we actually get to hear what's keeping her up at night. I feel like a lot of times it was just implied that she was worrying about things and we didn't get to hear her thoughts out loud, which I really liked in this scene, is letting her be able to voice that and having Mulder as that sounding board, you know, as he always has been and they have been for each other, which makes it really special. So, yeah. It's a good minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, I think this is them. I mean, not just at the most intimate that we see them, but also this is at their best.
Well, what struck me is, you know, when Mulder says, why haven't I heard about this before? She starts talking about her patient. You know, why haven't you told me this before? And I thought, well, why hasn't she? But the fact that they're even talking about it right now is something we haven't seen in the past. It's just even, well, I haven't told you before, but I'm telling you now. And then they get into this conversation and it's just truly, it's that intellectual intimacy that we're together in this kind of feeling that we haven't been allowed to see in the past.
Yeah. And I like that he knows exactly what to say to make her feel better. Like, do you think God is losing any sleep over anything right now? You know, like, you know, it is tongue in cheek, but that's Mulder. And it kind of, I feel like it kind of makes her sort of snap out of it a little bit. And, you know.
Well, I do love that she's willing to say that she's cursing God for all his cruelties. And then he says, is he living? And to me, that personally, I love when we see her in this movie struggle with her faith. And I think it just gives dimension to her, makes her more relatable, not just I know it all and I believe it all. You know, it's just something. It's such an important theme throughout the movie, and we get it right here. It's like, I'm cursing God for his cruelties, and you don't expect to hear that from her, but it makes sense. It makes her relatable.
Yeah. And the idea, I don't know exactly where the line falls, so sorry if this is actually the line that is in the next minute, but somewhere in there she says, like, why bring a kid into the world just to make him suffer?
Yeah.
And
that's the last line in this minute.
Yeah, I was like, I think that's right where our minute cuts off. And I, even without talking about what I'm sure we'll talk about in the next minute, that I think is something that Scully and Mulder, I think that's a theme that has come up before, you know, in other places too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And, you know, not only like for her personal life, but as a medical doctor, you know, that's got to be hard for her too, to deal with. It's hard enough to deal with a patient who's suffering, let alone a child, you know, just from the medical point of view as a doctor. And she just so desperately wants to help him and to fix it, and she can't. And just, yeah, that's a lot. No wonder she's up in the middle of the night thinking about that.
Well, yeah. And I think too, like, when you think about, like, Scully is a person who was a terminal patient and, like, they fought, like, all the way through that, you know what I mean? And so, like, it's not a stretch to imagine her as, like, a medical doctor being someone who is not going to stop, like, fighting.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
It makes sense. Yeah.
So, like, really solid characterization just in this one tiny minute.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff, right? So I think, unless we have any other thoughts to add, we can wrap that up and head into the next minute. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Awesome. So that will do it for minute 31 of I Want to Believe Minute. And very soon, we will be back with minute 32. But until then, always remember, trust no one.